Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be viewing my undergraduate admissions file that got me accepted into the University of Michigan, so hopefully that should be fun and exciting. My process for setting up an appointment to view my file was pretty easy. I just emailed the Ross Undergraduate Office of Admissions and I asked them to view my file, and then they got back to me in like a couple of days, and then I set up an appointment the following week to view my file, where I just pretty much walked to Ross in their office, and they took me to an empty room where they gave me 20 minutes to take notes on my file, and I wasn't allowed to take any pictures or videos of it. But that was my process. I'm just saying this because I feel like everyone I've talked to has had like a different process for reviewing their files. Like some people had to wait like 4 months to review their files, or some people had like 45 minutes to review their files, and I only had 20. But fear not, I wrote down everything I humanly could in those 20 minutes. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the layout of this video should be pretty simple. Most people usually have 2 to 3 readers that look over their files. I had 2 readers, and essentially these raters rated me from a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst, on 6 different categories. So these categories are my extracurriculars, my Common App essay, my community essay, my Why Michigan essay, then my business case essay, and my artifact essay. And then lastly, they give me a final rating on my file as a whole. And they also do a separate academic rating on the side apart from these category ratings. Just a heads up though, I only had 20 minutes to view my file, and the packet that they gave me was like 10 pages long, so I didn't have time to write every single thing that they wrote on my file. But what I did is I just wrote down the negative stuff they said on my file, because I think that would be more relevant to you guys, because I want you guys to learn from my mistakes and what I did wrong. And if you want a better understanding of what my admissions file looked like, I do have a video released on all my stats and what I wrote my essays on in a separate video, so if you want to learn more, then click on that. But other than that, that should be the layout for this video. Okay, so my first category was my extracurriculars. So the extracurriculars that I had on my Common App were soccer, my blood cancer campaign, how I worked with my state district representative. I also have science Olympiad, high school tennis, NHS, and a couple of other smaller extracurriculars. So for that category, my first reader rated me a 4.1 out of 5. They mentioned that my extracurriculars were heavy in 11th and 12th grade, but I only had 2 sustained extracurriculars at high school. And they also mentioned that I have nothing related to business but a few leadership roles. So they rated me a 4.1 out of 5. My second reader also rated me a 4.1 out of 5, and they mentioned that I have a deep commitment to soccer, LLS, which is my blood cancer campaign, the political government, science Olympiad, USTA. They mentioned that I excelled to outstanding time commitments. I'm sustained in 3 extracurriculars throughout high school with 4 leadership roles. And they also mentioned that I'm missing demonstrated interest where it's likely available, and I have nothing related to business, although I have several leadership roles within them. Yeah, so as you can tell, both of my readers did go out of the way to point out the fact that I didn't have any business-related extracurriculars on my application, which makes sense because I did apply as a business major, so that's definitely something I wish I'd done differently in high school. But at the same time, like, it was just hard for me to do so because there wasn't a lot of business-related stuff at my high school. It was like a very STEM-based school with a lot of like sciencey and math stuff. But that definitely makes sense. I agree with that. And one of the readers also mentions that I was missing demonstrated interest where it's likely available. So I guess they do care about that. I never really went out of my way to go on like campus tours or like email admissions officers, but I'm not really sure what demonstrated interest entails. It can mean like a lot of different things, but that's definitely some takeaways I've had from viewing my first category. So for category 2, they rated my Common App essays. So for my Common App essay, I pretty much talk about soccer and how it's helped shape my identity and personality, and how it's helped me on and off the field through different experiences. And for this essay, my first reader rated me a 3.3 out of 5. And they say that I used my essay to describe my extracurriculars in an average and typical way. And then my second reader actually rated me a 5 out of 5 on that essay. And they mentioned that this is exactly what we're looking for: conveys leadership, makes meaningful connections from soccer to instances of leadership involvement. So that's what both of the readers said. Obviously, they're very different ratings, even though they looked at the same essay. And I do know that like writing a Common App essay on a sport is like basic, but I did try to do my best to connected to my individual experiences. So I guess the second reader really saw that, and the first reader just didn't like the fact that I wrote it on a sport, which I can understand that. For my third category, it was my community essay. So for the community essay, you essentially have to write an essay on a community that you belong to and your place within it. So what I talked about is how when I was working with my state district representative, I've met other like young, active people who also were socially driven to make positive impact in their communities and use politics to drive positive social change. For this essay, I got my first rater rated me a 3.7 out of 5, and then they mentioned that there's no sense of individual contribution to group, but conveys contribution to local community through it. And then my second reader rated me a 4.1 out of 5, and then they mentioned does not reflect on her community members or share about connecting with them, but shares knowledge of what she's done through it. So I think definitely something I wish I'd done differently is kind of mention how I specifically helped contribute to this community, because I really just talk about what we do as a whole, but I guess these readers are looking for what I did specifically to like help this community. So that's definitely something to take away from that. So the fourth category was the Why Michigan essay that we all love and dread. I literally hated writing this essay, or just why us essays in general for colleges. But oh well. For this essay, my first reader rated me a 3.7 out of 5, and then my second reader rated me a 4.3 out of 5. And then some of the comments that they made are that does not connect to business experience per se, but does a fantastic job of convincing us her aptitude through other experiences. And they also mentioned that I mentioned a variety of Ross offerings at their school. So again, like I just couldn't really connect it to my business experience because I like didn't have a lot, but I get where they're coming from. But that's what they said for my Why Michigan essay. So the last two categories are specific to Ross and their portfolio. So for the fifth category, this was the business case discussion essay, where essentially you have to talk about a local problem within your community and how you would solve it using business principles. So what I did is, I think it's been a while, but I remember, designing a localized navigation app to help solve like how crowded it was at my school and help students like navigate themselves around high school. And then I also talk about like other business factors that go into it, like engagement and profit and margins and marketing. So for this essay, my first reader rated me a 3.3 out of 5, and then my second reader rated me a 3.7 out of 5, and then the first reader says it's a high school app to solve problems, copying on apps that already exist. And then my second reader mentions that there's no business implications. My solution is a localized navigation app. And then he says that it's not a sufficiently meaningful problem, but offers a cogent description of how the app would function. So I kind of realized this after I submitted my portfolio, but like my solution was probably not the best solution because it was just an app, and I feel like a lot of the times an app just comes across as not original, because I feel like a lot of people would do an app. But they also mentioned that I don't have a sufficiently meaningful problem, which yeah, I don't really know what else to say to that, because I just chose a problem that affected me in my like high school. But I think they liked how, even though my solution was not like the best solution, I just go out of the way to like touch base on like everything that goes into this solution, like how it would make money, like how I would ensure there's like persistent engagement, and how the app would function overall. So that's what they said for my business case essay. So for the sixth category, this was the artifact essay. For this essay, we essentially have to like upload an artifact that shows something significant in your life and essentially just shows your learning in action. So for this essay, I touched base on the blood cancer campaign that I worked with, and I essentially just upload a flyer as well as a couple of Excel files that like show like me tracking the donation amounts as well as trends upon it. So for this essay, my first reader rated me a 3.7 out of 5. They mentioned that tells what she did in organization but doesn't show and does not give examples of how this was done. And then my second reader rated me a 4.3 out of 5, and they mentioned that this essay suggests strong collaborative and communicative skills. And then they say that she learned she can provide positive societal impact through business. So that's what they said for the sixth category. All right, so after these readers have rated me on all these 6 categories, they left me off with the final rating on my application as a whole, along with some final comments. So reader 1 rated my entire file as a 3.7 out of 5, and the comments that they made is that I'm a local applicant, so likely to MATR. I'm not sure what that means, but XCs are more limited than other applicants and doesn't include many sustained nor busy extracurriculars. Essays are high average, writes about common and typical things like play-by-play of sports games, issues at high school, apt to solve problems, etc. Doesn't give examples of working with others, tells but doesn't show. Business essay mentions Ross offerings, states business expansion from classes but doesn't expand on her interest. So that is what Rater 1 rated me on my entire file. And then Reader 2 rated me a 4.3 out of 5, and they say that I had fabulous essays filled with connections to experience and demonstration of leadership makes this student seem more competitive than she does simply based off the application extracurricular list. Would have rated higher if she was in business activities. So those are what my 2 readers rated my file as a whole. I'm not really surprised at what they said. It's stuff that I already knew, but that's what they said on my file. Okay, so lastly, I also had an academic rating, which is on a separate page apart from all the other categories. I'm not sure if these were also rated by the same 2 readers or if it went to like a different committee, but I also got 2 academic ratings as a whole. For my first rating, basically they just mentioned how I have a 1550 SAT, which I had a 1540, but I'm assuming they probably super scored it. It states my 4.0 GPA, my 35 ACT. I didn't take the ACT, but I'm assuming they just translated the 1550 SAT to the ACT score. And then they also just list my AP scores, and then they just list my academic credits, my honors classes, my AP classes. And then in terms of like the comment, they say that the first rater said that I had an excellent overall curriculum, outstanding academics, excellent involvement, outstanding recommendations, excellent final comments. I'm rating Samitha a 2. She was an outstanding student academically with outstanding involvement, centered around her interests in business and policymaking, strong University of Michigan interests. So they rated me a 2. I'm not really sure how the scale for the academic rating works. And then the second rater, they just also list the same thing, my GPA, my SAT, and my exam scores for my AP exams. And then they rate me, I actually don't have a rating for this one. They didn't even mention a rating, but they say that I'm an outstanding student academically, and I'm one of 84 students at my high school, ranked number 1, with strong leadership and nice essays / University of Michigan interest that supports rating. Overall, outstanding candidate. So yeah, that's what both of the readers said on my academics, and I definitely think my academics were like a stronger part of my essay compared to my extracurriculars or my essays in general. So that essentially wraps up the video and my entire college admissions file and what they said on it. So hopefully provided a little bit more information and insight as to what like a college admission officer is looking for and what an ideal application would look like. I did mean to publish this video out a little bit earlier before the November action deadline, but like the semester has been crazy and I didn't have time to get around to that, but hopefully it'll still be helpful because I know there's like colleges that have a deadline in January, so that should definitely hopefully help out. I personally found this experience to be humbling because they like said a lot of strong things about my file. They also said good things on my file too, but to be honest, it wasn't like stuff I already didn't know about. But yeah, again, if you enjoyed this video or you found it to be helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, comment them down below, DM me, I'll get back to you guys. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.